What's going on, Niner fam? It is me, Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast, and I've got with me today a very special guest. And I told everybody on Twitter today I was really excited about it. I've got the Andrew Pasquini from the Sprint Right Option Podcast. Andrew, so happy to have you today. Why don't you tell? I'm sure a lot of people already know where to find you, but if you want to tell everybody where they can find you on the socials.
Yeah, Peter, I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to talking some Niners right now. You can find me on Twitter at Pasquini Andrew. That's Pasquini Andrew, the normal way. I'm not Andrew Jones, Andrew Pasquini. That's where you can find me. I tweet. I'm a pretty average tweeter. If you can get through the wrestling and the soccer tweets, I have half decent 49er tweets. I like to think so. That's where you can find me on the Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been it's been a gnarly few days to say the least for 49er Nation. I don't even know where to start, but that's why I wrote notes down.
Hey,
So
it works. I like that.
So we're gonna start talking about how crazy of a week it's been. Like Trey unfortunately got injured in our last game, and I think there was a lot of debate out there on whether he was even going to come back this season. I heard a lot of chatter out there, but they said he had successful surgery on his ankle. There was a chance that he would come back this season, but I think we all kind of knew he was done and that they would just shut him down for the season. And I think Kyle reiterated that today. Do you think they do you think there was even any chance or even any thought of them even trying to rush him back from this injury?
No, not at all. Even with Shanahan saying it today, that didn't change my opinion on it. There's no reason to. And the Trey Lance situation put the Niners in a weird spot already. And I don't know if this is the best way to describe it. The way I've described the 49ers with Trey Lance this season was it's almost a rebuilding year with a Super Bowl caliber roster. And I don't like saying rebuilding because that's not what it is. You're really just starting a quarterback maybe a little earlier than he's ready, maybe not. But hey, that was the point of finding out this season.
Mm-hmm.
If Trey Lance is still the future of this franchise, and there's no reason not to believe he is, because he should be. He's the quarterback. You traded all those picks. You need to keep him healthy for 2023 and beyond. Rushing him back wasn't ever going to be in the cards. And I'm very happy Shanahan said something this year, because you knew if we got to week 16, week 17, and there's no really update on it, you knew Niner fans would be saying, well, Lance is healthy. Why isn't he in? It's the right idea to now you're essentially redshirting him, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word either. He's hurt and that doesn't work. But there's no reason to rush him back, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, if Brock Purdy's your backup, this is a different conversation, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe you rush him back, maybe not. I don't know. I think it would come down to where the Niners were in terms of a playoff race. But with Jimmy Garoppolo and that insurance policy they now have to cash out, there's really no reason to rush him back, especially if Garoppolo's at a point where they will be in a playoff spot, because I have no reason to believe they're not going to be a playoff team at this point.
Yeah.
There's no reason to make the switch at the end of the season. This is Garoppolo's show until 2023.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were disappointed. A lot of people were kind of, to say the least, but it was, I think, and some people were actually more disappointed that it's Garoppolo. I don't even think that they some of the Twitter out there even cared if we didn't have Garoppolo backing up. They just didn't want to see him on the team anymore. But I know that I'm thankful that he's still here because I just like the Niners. I just love the Niners, and I just want to see them win. So it is what it is. We've got Garoppolo for another season. I'm glad that they at this point that they kept him around. But when Trey does finally come back next season and they restart this process, do you think Kyle is gonna adjust the way he does anything, or does it depend kind of on what Trey shows in training camp and in the off season?
I think that's really what it's going to come down to, is how he looks throwing the ball. I think that's where the disconnect has come, because Trey Lance is very unpolished. Let's be honest. I know we like to talk about his ceiling and how good he can be, and those are all fun things. But right now, he is who he is, and that's brings it back to kind of, as I said, the rebuilding, but a Super Bowl contender. Kyle Shanahan is trying to do his best, making the Niners the best team they can be. And does it come at the expense of Trey Lance's development as a passer? Maybe. But if Kyle Shanahan sees Lance better as a runner, which I think obviously he did, he ran him quite a bit. And I don't have an issue with that, which if we want to get into that rabbit hole, we absolutely can.
Yeah.
But Shanahan was running him because I think there was this distrust in the passing game. And I don't know it. I'm not the right person to go deep into that idea of what Shanahan's looking for in a passer, because I think that's a very fluid thing. I don't think he's looking for a Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't know if he's looking for a guy like Trey Lance necessarily.
I don't think anybody knows.
Nobody. I think Kyle Shanahan just wakes up some days and decides what he wants. And that's the fun thing, though. It's like, does he adapt Trey Lance to throw the ball more, or is he just such a stubborn head coach? He's like, no, my way is going to work. I'm going to show everybody my way is going to work. He's going to come back and he's going to keep running the ball. And that's kind of the fun thing with Shanahan, is you don't know how he's going to adapt to this situation. But when Lance comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit more of the same, unless he really does take those strides in the passing game. And I mean, all these rumors, I don't want to dive into them, but these rumors about whether or not the locker room thinks he's the best quarterback, things like that. Like, I don't believe them, but it comes from someplace, right? Yeah. So, and I saw you arguing with somebody earlier today about whether the Niners are better or not with Garoppolo or Lance. And I think you were right in saying that's not really a fair question to ask, because we don't know what Trey Lance looks like. We haven't
really seen it.
But this isn't my answer, right? If I wanted to be the hot take guy and say this is my answer, sure, but this isn't my answer. But I think, yes, they are, just because you know what Jimmy Garoppolo is compared to what Trey Lance. You don't know what Trey Lance is. We could have had more week one performances out of him over the season. We could have had more performances against the Texans. You don't know. With Jimmy Garoppolo, at least you know what there is. So now the question is where does Shanahan go with Lance? Hopefully Lance develops a little bit better of a passer and we see him used more as a thrower. But I think it really comes down to what Trey Lance is in camp next season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the whole reason why I said that we don't really know is because of how different the Texans game was from the Arizona game the last season, and then for the game the first game that we saw him in preseason to the last game that we saw him in preseason, and then the game in Chicago was, I mean, I don't know of many quarterbacks at all that would have thrived in those circumstances. And not to give him any excuses for the weather, but I mean, the reality is Jimmy Garoppolo didn't do well in the weather, in that kind of weather either. No. So it's just, I just look at it as, and then he gets hurt on the second drive of the game. So I just think that we are still completely clueless on what Trey Lance is. Yes. And I think that fact is even more frustrating for fans. And I'm sure for the coaching staff,
because now we have to wait another year to find out what he is. And the Niners are on a clock, right? There's the 5-year clock. They should be picking up his 5th year option, especially now, not knowing what the first 2 years are. Now you essentially have 3 years to find out. It's not good. Like, obviously the Garoppolo backup situation, it ends up working out. It makes 2022 a salvageable season, and it makes 2022 manageable and all that. But the big concern with the Trey Lance injury now is what it looks like in the future, because now we still don't know. We're going to have to see all the Trey Lance season tweets in August when he's coming back, ramping back up, all that stuff. And the good news is broken ankle, 10 weeks. He's 100% going to be healthy next season. This isn't an ACL. This isn't an Achilles. This isn't anything like that where it's okay, well, he might be ready, he might not. This is a pretty straightforward thing, so that's good. But I know everybody's excited for the ceiling of what Jimmy Garoppolo is. Or excuse me, the ceiling. We know what's going on. Jimmy Garoppolo is. Apologize. You see how I get to switch up? We talk about Garoppolo so much. I know everybody's excited to see what the ceiling of Trey Lance is. There we go. We got it correct.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we were necessarily ready for the process on it. And that's where this season, I think that's why you can say maybe the Niners will be better because of Garoppolo, because you know what it is. You're not going to have to go through the growing pains of what Trey Lance could or could not be. But now we get to find out in 2023, and we just have to put another year on this clock. So, in terms of short term, the injury, like, it sucks. The Niners lose their third pick at the draft in 2021, but they should be fine. 2023 and beyond, it creates more questions than really it answers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But now, okay, so and I shouldn't sound exasperated, but
It's a
but
lot.
now,
You go a whole offseason not expecting to talk about
yeah,
Garoppolo, and now here we are, and you got
exactly.
to really shift your mind back into that gear.
Yeah, now we're bright, and now I feel myself going back into last year when I started these
Yes.
podcasts
Yes.
and the feelings that we were getting then.
Mhm.
But now that Jimmy's back, I mean, do we see the same offense as we saw last year, or do we see some of the stuff that we saw in this last game where at least he tries to throw a couple downfield? And I was pleasantly surprised. I'm hoping that Shanahan saw the benefit of that, and not that he completed those long passes, but that it
Mhm.
creates opportunities. And it's
Mhm.
you don't have to complete the pass. Sometimes you get lucky and you get that flag on it. That's just the way the NFL is now. So it's do you think that we see the same thing, or do you think that they're going to go to more of what we saw last week?
I really hope we see more of what we saw last week, because I thought the most impressive thing about Jimmy Garoppolo is he did a little pass interference hunting, and he got a couple of them called.
Yep.
When have we seen that? And it leads me to believe, because after the game, he said, I just went out there and threw the ball. I'm all about that idea of the Polo Show.
Yeah.
Jimmy read option and power.
Yeah.
I'm for it. I'm not against it. I'm very pro Jimmy Garoppolo quarterback sneak guy. Like, if you
Yeah.
follow
Back,
my Twitter,
especially at the
I
sneak. Yeah.
I update those sneak stats. I'm a big Jimmy Garoppolo sneak. I think he's 2 for 2 on the season.
Yep.
I really hope we see that offense, though, because I think it was
For
pretty
sure.
fun. I think, and my friend Jordan Elliott, Niners Nation, he tweeted out about how it was one of Garoppolo's best throws, but the throw to Brandon Ayuk on the sideline, the one that
Mm,
Ayuk dropped, that might
yeah.
have been the best Jimmy Garoppolo throw we've seen. So I don't know
I don't think
if
he was ready for it.
that's what it might have been, because you trust Ayuk on those throws.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're so used to Garoppolo missing those throws. It's like, wow, it's actually in the spot it needs to be. I hope the offense stays the same, but I think it's more likely at this point that it goes back to a little bit of what it was. And I don't know. I think the player that it might affect the most is Danny Gray, because when the Niners drafted Danny Gray this season, the first thought was, wow, what's this going to look like with Trey Lance and the big arm? But on the other side of it, Danny Gray, he was active in week 2 after a healthy scratch in week 1. He was targeted twice, both times by Garoppolo.
Yeah.
And I believe the one of the targets was, I think, 40 yards down the field, 40, 50 yards down the field. It was a
Yeah.
deep shot. So I don't know what it actually means for Danny Gray. He only played 8 snaps on Sunday, something like that, saw 2 targets. I don't know what it means. I would hope they would still continue the idea, just to at least, I don't know if it'll work or not, but to just at least give the defense an idea of, hey, maybe they're going to stretch it with Gray on this play. I know it's Garoppolo. We're used to him throwing short of the line, but maybe Shanahan saw something that he really liked comes on Sunday, and maybe the Niners try and push it upfield a little bit more, because I think there is something to what Garoppolo said post game, was he came in loose, and
Hmm.
maybe there's something to it. I don't know. He had the idea of, hey, I'm not playing today, and then boom, you're in the game. Now you're just trusting instincts more so than scheme or plan or anything like that, because yes, he knows the offense, but he's not schemed every week when he's the backup. He's being treated like a normal backup.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I'm very excited. I think that's the most intriguing thing about this game on Sunday is, well, what's this offense going to look like now? Is it going to be a hybrid? Because obviously, I know we joke about the read option with Garoppolo and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That aspect of the offense is obviously going to be gone, even though we did see one. I believe his right before his touchdown, it was an option play at the goal line for Garoppolo. So maybe we see it every so often.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what this offense looks like come Sunday.
Yeah, and I think it was more like what we saw actually in 2017. And
Yeah.
then when they didn't really have a game script for Garoppolo and they
Mhm.
kind of just let him go out there and play. And I think I, I've always had this little birdie in the back of my head with Shanny, and and as far as he goes is when he gets a chance to make a game script for a specific game script for a quarterback, it tends to be it tends to keep them in a box.
Mhm.
And I just I've always wondered is could some of Garoppolo's like tendencies, we've always complained because he stays in one spot on the field and like it's always looks the same and all that stuff. I've always wondered is that Shanny kind of keeping him in the box and not allowing him to make those other kind of throws. And now when he gets in a situation where they don't really have a game script for Jimmy, and they go in there and they have all these plays set up that they've been practicing all week, and now they're going to run them, and that just gave Jimmy carte blanche to just to do what he feels, and like so I wonder about that.
I think it really, I think the big thing I've learned watching Kyle Shanahan these past few years is trust is a huge thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know if he necessarily has 100% trust in Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's pretty obvious he didn't have 100% trust in Trey Lance. And I think when he doesn't have trust in these players is you get a little more conservative play calling and more conservative and it's really interesting is Shanahan, when he doesn't have trust in guys, he's more conservative, but then when he needs to be conservative, he gets more aggressive, like in the Super Bowl, the two Super Bowls. It's really weird. He likes to play it safe until he needs to play it safe. And he's like, no, let's get loose and goosey now and have fun with it.
It's the obvious when it's the obvious play call, and I think this frustrates everybody, is he gets that I think I'm the smartest guy in the room moment.
Yes.
And he just calls a random draw to juice.
Yeah, but like but at the same time though, every so often it works, and we talk about how genius or how much of a genius Shanahan is. So I don't know necessarily if it is a trust thing. I think it is. He probably doesn't have 100% trust. I mean, you've seen how many times have we seen Garoppolo miss the underneath linebacker, things like that. There's definitely certain areas that Shanahan can't throw, or excuse me, Shanahan can't design Garoppolo to throw to because of limitations. Although we almost saw him hit that sideline pass to Ayuk we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe he saw something in Garoppolo and said, okay, well, maybe if we keep it loose and let Garoppolo trust his instincts instead of, hey, this read. If you don't see one of them, figure it out yourself. But if you see one of them, go to it. Maybe Garoppolo plays a little better, but at this point, this is year 7 for him. We know what he is at this point. I don't think there's going to be any random new wrinkle to what Jimmy Garoppolo is. But who knows, man? Surprises happen. Remember that one year Ryan Tannehill was a top 10 quarterback. That's nowhere near a fact anymore. So maybe Garoppolo has one of those. And boy, wouldn't it be fun just to have a Garoppolo, like this be the year Garoppolo win the Super Bowl, and then we get a whole off season of like, okay, do they actually go to Trey Lance, or like Garoppolo just won them a Super Bowl? Like, you got to keep them, right? So, of course, maybe this will be the year. Maybe this will be the year it all clicks just for that chaos.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if
it's a scary thought,
that's what it takes to get a Super Bowl, I'm here for it. I'm here for it, and let all the chaos ensue when as soon as, I don't care if it's right after they lift the trophy. Like I want the first stories that come out be like, okay, what now with Jimmy? Like,
Niner fans will be shocked when they don't just run the contract extension out, like, and put it on the Lombardi Trophy for him to sign. Like, they'll be like, "Why aren't we extending him?" It's like, dude, he was just named Super Bowl MVP like 3 minutes ago. There's contract negotiations that have to happen. You think the Niners who notoriously wait until camp to get the extension signed, are just going to sign Jimmy Garoppolo that quick? No.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be. I honestly, I don't think that I don't care, come hell or high water, I don't think that they can re-sign Jimmy. I just don't think that they can.
You don't think they can, but after what last season was, no way he's coming back, right? He literally said goodbye in the press conference.
Yeah.
And here we are. So, I mean, this is the second offseason in a row, because
I should have learned by now that you can never say never with this organization specifically. Like, it just seems it always flows in a certain direction. And we've been watching football for years and years and years, and over 35 years for me. And I've never seen an organization just do good and make weird decisions, and then it still works out kind of. and then they make another weird decision, and we all think it's going to crumble to the ground. And oh no, it still kind of works out. And then and then they have the COVID year where everybody gets hurt, but they ended up getting Trey Lance. and
The
like,
the way
and
the way
now,
I the way I like to describe it is they're just good enough to disappoint us. I
yes,
think that's kind of the best way to look at the 49ers, right? Is they make these
yeah.
decisions to be just good enough to disappoint us and make us regret caring about them for 5 months every year.
Chris says no, they'll lose the NFC Championship game,
Ex-
then re-sign him for Revenge Tour Part 4.
That's trick. Because like if you really want to dive into the theories, this is the third off season that we've had the thought of Jimmy Garoppolo being replaced. Because if you want to dive into it, maybe they were interested in Tom Brady trying to get rid of Garoppolo then. Then
Yeah,
2021, they definitely had the interest in Stafford. They definitely had the interest in Watson. I mean, we got to a point
even
in 2021 where like we were having conversations of like, is Carson Wentz or Mitch Trubisky an upgrade on Garoppolo? Like, you remember those conversations?
yes, I
And
do,
then this
I do.
offseason, we had the whole goodbye press conference. Like, we'll miss you, Jimmy, but it was fun, but like, leave.
Yeah,
And here we are. Here we are, week 3. Jimmy Garoppolo's back. Time is a flat circle. Nothing ever changes.
yeah, no, it doesn't. But you mentioned Danny Gray and like his role, and like that even had a couple of targets by, I think it surprised us all from Jimmy Garoppolo. But like, but what do you think this actually means? This part of the offense is going to mean for Danny Gray and like, and really Ray McLeod, because I
Mhm.
feel like he is a really dynamic piece that they can move around and do all kind. He's more of a traditional slot
Mhm.
that they can use, and I just really wonder what's gonna happen with those guys, because this offense, we all looked at it and we thought, and it looked like it was going to be so dynamic, and now we've got Jimmy in there, and can he take advantage of all those weapons? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I think he can, but I think what's going to be interesting is to see more so how Kyle Shanahan designs space for Gray and Ray
Yeah,
McLeod, because the over the top probably won't be as much as feasible of an option as it would have been with Trey Lance. So now, and I mean, we're gonna watch to make a comparison. We're gonna watch Mike McDaniel win Coach of the Year off of this very simple concept of I have 2 really fast guys as receivers. I'm gonna give the really fast guys the ball in space and let them just be fast. And he's
yeah,
gonna win a coach of the year off of that idea. So now let's see how Kyle Shanahan does it, because he's never had these burner types. He had Marquise Goodwin, but Marquise Goodwin never was 100% what he could have been because the Niners never really had a great quarterback to get him the ball. He was the Brian Hoyer, CJ Beathard kind of in the Garoppolo era receiver. They
yeah.
haven't had a burner like that since then. Now he has 2 essentially. So I'm curious to see if the idea with Danny Gray is to keep him to stretch the field vertically, even if they're not going to take those deep shots, so at least keep the defense honest on it. Or if Shanahan finds ways to get them space like he does with Debo, like he does with Ayuk, but not just get them to space to catch the ball, but get them to space to use that top end speed to find gaps and hopefully explosive plays off of it. I think it's more likely we see that type of thing as opposed to a over the top stretch, because as we say, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. There is
Yeah,
no secrets with him anymore. It's not like
yeah.
I think it would be more impressive if Jimmy Garoppolo year 8 develops a deep ball. I think that would be a fantastic story, but I don't think we can pretend like that's going to happen. So I think it's going to be more quick, short stuff with those guys. Hope
Yeah.
it works out in space. Especially
I
too with the way they use McLeod. I mean, they've had him in the backfield a
yeah,
couple times. I think he was the running back on the play that Lance got hurt, right? He was called in the motion into the
yeah,
backfield off the
he
top. I think
was.
it was McLeod. So I don't know. I'm more excited to see how they're used now because I think he has to get a little more creative again.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned Marquise Goodwin, because that is a good point. Like that was 2019. I remember that they had that one leak play, and it was really kind of let the league know that it was possible for the 49ers that they could be explosive. I don't know if you remember that play, but there was a leak play for Marquise Goodwin where he caught it. It was like a 15, 20 yard throw by Garoppolo that he just took to the house, because he just, like you said, it was just
Who's that
like
against?
and I can't remember who it was against either, but I think it was either the second or the third game of the season. And but it was a great play call, and I
Mhm.
don't think anybody was ready for it, because Marquise Goodwin was all by himself like and once he caught the ball, there was just nobody going to catch him.
I'm trying to find the game right now. I'm trying to see if
Yeah.
I could. Let's see. It'll probably go by long because it was a deep play, right? This is us figuring things out live on YouTube. We love it.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this is how I run my podcast as well.
Yeah.
I don't see longs on these. I mean, my guess is, oh, was it week 2 against Cincy?
I think it was
Because he had that was his best game, 3
game.
receptions. Yeah, that sounds right because the Niners
like right after that he went away.
The Niners had a few big hitters that game because I remember a big Richie James play off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Maybe not. No, he only had said
no.
Yeah, Goodwin had the big play. It was a 38-yard reception. Yeah, that's what it was. Yep. Polo Show's got us.
Yep, he does. But yeah, I think that could be a clue as to what they want to do with those types of guys. And I didn't even think Marquise Goodwin, but that's really how they were using him because he was the only burner that they had on that team.
I mean, they had in general, who in the last 20 years, what burners have the Niners had? Like Stevie Johnson, does he
don't disparage AJ Jenkins, okay? The speed was there. It was just everything else wasn't there.
Hey, he ran fast. He would have been a great Raider.
Yeah.
Darius Hayward Bay,
Oh, geez, that guy.
But DHB.
So the interior O-line graded out. Everybody was saying, "Oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything with these guys," and everybody was expecting us to fail with Aaron Banks and having Brendel and Brendel didn't. He looked average in my opinion, but the O-line itself just graded out pretty well this last game, and in my estimation, it was some of the best pass blocking that I've seen out of this line in a while. So what is this a sign that the group could be gelling in week 2? Or do you think that, and do you think this could be a strength for the team by the end of the year?
Yeah, I've always been a believer that as long as you have Trent Williams, this offensive line can go very far. Just having that anchor is huge. I could see a case though, just on the flip side and just little conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat thought here. Did the offensive line improve or did the ball get out quicker because Jimmy Garoppolo's in the backfield and things like that, right? So there's fun questions like that we can be had. But yeah, the progression, it was obviously there. There was improvement. Aaron Banks, he looked really good on Sunday, and that's a good sign because the way he's been treated despite how little he's played, even talking about how good of a game Aaron Banks had felt like a stretch, right?
Yeah.
Week 1, things are a little slippery. I feel bad for offensive linemen the most in run games or in rain games like we saw in week 1 because they're the ones getting beat up. They're the ones having to deal with the rain. So I kind of treated week 1 as a preseason game in every aspect. I just kind of threw it away. It sucks. It counts as a loss and it's 0-1 and all that. Kind of had to throw it away. Week 2 was a little bit more of what I expected to see because I think we've already established that Spencer Burford is a stud. I think that's well established at this point.
Yeah.
Jake Brendel is fine. I don't think Shanahan necessarily looks for the physical aspect in terms of a center. I think he looks more for what's between the ears with his brain and how he processes the game. I think that's why Alex Mack was so successful. Yeah, Alex Mack, he was 36, a little older, not as athletic as he used to be, but Shanahan wanted him there for what he knows about the offensive line and things like that. That's why
he didn't look good early last year.
He was very slow. He kind of had to get back into it. So maybe we see that with Brendel, but Brendel has a purpose. And I think it's very telling that the Niners signed him and instantly plugged him as the starting center over, Justin School was a rumored one. Brunskill was a rumored one, Donovan West, guys like that. They kept Brendel for a reason. I think that's because Shanahan liked him the most mentally. Physically, let's see if he gets there. I'm not too worried about the center position in the Shanahan offense. If Shanahan's starting you at center, I trust your abilities as a center. Shanahan loves his centers. You saw with Alex Mack with both the Falcons and the Niners, guys like that. He loves those guys. Yeah. Aaron Banks is the wild card here.
Yeah, but he was knocking guys all over the place.
Yes, he was looking really good on Sunday, so I'm excited to see what it is. And it's funny because we talk about an offensive line that struggles like Seattle, right? They have 3 new offensive linemen. The Niners also have 3 new offensive linemen, but it's not as bad. I think the reason is you have the bookends of Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey because Tackle's probably it is the most important position on the offensive line. I think in a general football sense, I know some people have differing opinions. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan will make an argument that the center is the most important one, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Seattle, they had to replace both of their tackles. Both rookies, both got cooked against the Niners, all that fun stuff. We don't need to talk about Seattle any
Yeah.
longer. That's not the team we're here to talk about. But the Niners, I think the reason why it's not as much of a pressure is, yeah, your interior offensive line is new. You have two, I'll call them rookies, Aaron Banks, second year, kind of like Trey Lance, so redshirted last year. I'm calling him a rookie for the sake of the argument. But you have the veteran presence in Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey on the outsides, and I think that's what makes it better is you know how good the talent is on the outsides. If you can
Mm-hmm.
curb that and help the insides with them, I think that's what's going to benefit this team. I think Laken Tomlinson got a little bit of a bump with having Trent Williams to his
Yeah,
left.
because
I,
he
I
does
think
not
we've
look good
seen
right
that
now.
so far in New York, right?
Yeah.
So why can't Aaron Banks get that bump as well? And I think over time you're going to see it because if you remember, Laken Tomlinson struggled in 2020 at the start of
Yes.
the season with Trent Williams, and over time it got better. The thought was, well, he's used to having Joe Staley. Once they get that kind of, I'm going to say friendship, I can't think of it, but relationship. That's the word I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. They get that relationship, maybe he'll improve. Maybe we'll see that with Aaron Banks as well. So this interior offensive line, big question mark for what we've thought they were going to be. I think it's been better than what we could have wished.
Yeah, I think that that event, like at the very least, they've got momentum,
Yes.
and which is an important thing. Offensive lines, in my opinion, always take time to gel. Even when they've worked together, it doesn't. And early on in the season, they don't usually dominate, in my opinion. And like it's usually just it's always the work in progress as the season goes on. But I was really encouraged by what I saw, and I loved the attitude of Aaron Banks, that he really came out there and he was trying to set a tone. It was visible that he was trying to do that. And Burford's always been that. Like in my opinion, for the moment he stepped on the field. So, and I like the fact that with Brendel that he's just there. The less we have to mention him, the better. And he's not killing us. So that's all I really need out of Brendel. Like is that he's not killing us. He's not letting that pressure come up the middle right into Jimmy's face. So I'm really encouraged. But how do you? So Kittle comes back this week. Supposedly, we all think that because he's already starting to practice. Like and with the offensive line kind of by all intents and purposes playing pretty well last game. How do they keep Kittle in there to block, like or do we see a little bit more of him catching some passes?
I think this question becomes a little more fun if Trey Lance is the starting quarterback just because
Yeah,
of his ability to stretch the field and his
for
throwing
sure.
ability. I think we're going to get the same old frustrating George Kittle situation. I know fans get frustrated when he's not targeted as much. He is open. Sometimes he's not the first. As we said, Garoppolo, he's a very much a read heavy offense. Sometimes Kittle's not the first or second read. That's why he doesn't get as many targets because he is open quite a bit sometimes. But I think it's just going to be back to the same old. I think he'll be heavy in the blocking game, especially with the lack of depth at the running back position right now. I think any support that can get, I think Kittle will use it. But I think they'll ease him back in to the passing game, especially with the groin, because groins are tricky, right? Groins are
Yeah.
very tricky to deal with. You never really know when they're 100%. They nag more than really any other injury, things like that. I think it'll be easing him into the passing game. But who knows? Maybe Shanahan surprises us and Kittle's the most targeted receiver on Sunday because Shanahan likes to change his mind on a drop of a dime. But I would expect more of a run blocking type Kittle game on Sunday and maybe for the first few weeks up until he really is 100%.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like because I agree with you. I don't think that they're gonna want to do the full on Kittle running routes thing with a groin. Like and honestly, he may not get his normal snap share
Mm-hmm.
that he would. So yeah, that's a really good point. But let's move on to the running backs.
Yes.
Can this team get through a game this season without another running back injury? And the most important question: do we finally does Jordan Mason finally get a carry?
Oh man, that's the fun question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we're done with the injuries for Niners running backs because usually we get the two out of the way at the start of the season, and then we're good for the rest of the season. For the Jordan Mason question, that's a fun one because
Yeah.
I don't know
That's
that
my
like
guy.
I wish I could be the expert and tell you, but I don't know because you would have thought like week one, I put him down as one of the five players to watch on the offense because he was chosen over Trace Sermon. Sermon
Hmm.
is gone. He's still here, right? So what's the plan? What are you going to do with him? Ends up okay. He's a special teams guy. That's fine. Niners have plenty of running back depth. Week one, Elijah Mitchell's still there. Week two now, you're down Elijah Mitchell. It's now Jeff Wilson. It's Tyrion Davis Price. It's Debo Samuel. You got to throw him in there. But now Jordan Mason's the third running back, and we see the Niners use three running backs all the time. And then
Yeah.
he doesn't get a carry, and he's special teams once again. The Niners go heavily TDP, go heavily Jeff Wilson. And the curious thing about going heavily TDP is Tyrion Davis Price was also a healthy scratch week one, just like
Yeah.
Danny Gray. So now Tyrion Davis Price goes from healthy scratch to, I think, did he have more? No, he had three less
No.
carries than
Yeah.
Jeff Wilson. It was closer
Yeah.
than
It
I
was a
thought it
pretty
would have been.
good share,
I
but
want to say it
they
was
had,
17 to 14, right?
yeah, they had mentioned that
18 to 14.
Jordan Mason was gonna get some looks, and and then nothing.
Yeah, so now the question is does Kyle Shanahan go with the rookie that's been on the roster since April whenever they got him, or does he trust the new veteran Marlon Mack and use him because you know what he is, he's a veteran,
Yeah, that's
more
what scares
trusting,
me.
right? And then I'm surprised Niners Twitter didn't pick this one up today, but they signed Tevin Coleman to the
Yeah,
practice squad.
that
So
really made me upset.
So
Like,
now we live in a world where like, is Jordan Mason inactive and is Tevin Coleman getting signed to the active roster? And I don't know. I don't think that's how that works. I'm just now throwing chaos out there for
it
fun.
better not.
But now it's like, okay, so what is Jordan Mason? I want to see what he looks like, but now it's the interesting wrinkle of do you go running back you've had for 6 months or do you go veteran that we know what he is? So I wish I had an answer for you. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't know what the plan is, Peter,
That's the
for
frustrating thing
Jordan
about it
Mason.
is none of us know the answer.
No.
Like, we never will know the answer until I mean, remember when Elijah Mitchell started for the first time? And like nobody,
Nobody.
absolutely nobody thought that that was going to happen.
No.
And everybody was assuming, everybody picked it up Trey Sermon in fantasy. Everybody was expecting for it to be him. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right before the game, they said, "Oh, they're expecting Elijah Mitchell to start." And I think that's what's going to happen in this game. I think I'm just really afraid that Shanny is just I feel like Shanny reads our tweets and he
Oh, yeah,
knows that we
Shanahan's
want.
on Twitter somewhere.
I know he has burners somewhere, and
He's got to.
he sees that we want Jordan Mason so bad, and he
Yeah.
just says no. It's I'm not gonna do it. I'm just not
No.
gonna do it.
Yeah, no, it's I don't think Kyle Shanahan knows what the running back rotation is until he wakes up. Like
Yeah,
I think he just like okay, the coffee. I was in the mood for like more sugar in my coffee today, so that's gonna be a Jeff Wilson day. I think
yeah,
like it's there's got to be some sort of decision he has in the morning because it always seems to be wildly inconsistent. Like I expected Tyrion Davis Price to be the second running back entering the season with
yeah,
Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson there because Jeff Wilson always seems to be the guy who just kind of falls down the depth chart for
yeah.
whatever reason. So I thought TDP was a shoo-in to be the second running back, but then he's not even playing that week. Jeff Wilson's now the starter again. You think, okay, Jordan Mason, TDP, healthy scratch. He's not going to get as many carries as Mason, and then Mason's just non-existent. So, man, running backs are fun with Kyle Shanahan. But the craziest thing about it is he's going to get running backs that average 4 yards a carry because that's just what he does.
Yeah, for sure. And but my just real quick about who are we talking about? The Jeff Wilson. He's just, and I've said it on my show multiple times, and I'm sure my fans but the people watching are tired of me saying it. But he's just a whole bunch of mid. He's a big ball of mid, and he's gonna get you four yards a carry, maybe. 3.5 to 4 yards a carry, and that's what you're going to get. It doesn't matter how big the hole is.
I think my
And
favorite thing about him is how physical he runs. I think that's
yes,
my favorite thing. He is a very physical runner.
I love
But yeah,
watching
no,
it.
he's consistent. That's all he is.
Yeah,
He's not breakaway. He's not explosive, but he's consistent.
yeah, and but that's what's so frustrating is because okay, consistent, but you've got two, like you had TDP and who you drafted because he is explosive and he's bigger, stronger. I think he's faster than Jeff Wilson. And then you've got Jordan Mason, who by all intents and purposes, all the reports have said, all the people at training camp said he was the best looking running back out of all of them.
Yep.
In preseason, he looked the best out of everybody. Granted, it was against third and fourth string, but regardless, the guy was just running through brick walls, and and we just don't get to see him. But so it's frustrating for us fans, but at the end of the day, Shanny doesn't care. He drinks our tears every week, and it is what it is. What it is. But I would venture, yeah, I would venture to say that like I'm just gonna be upset if I'm prepared for it mentally, but I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a Jeff Wilson and Mac
Yeah.
tandem.
Yeah.
But
No, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that either, to be honest.
yeah, but so let's get on to the defense. Okay,
Yes.
because this is my favorite part of the team. So the defense was dominant, lights out. They didn't get anything scored on them. The one score that Seattle had was a blocked kick. So the defense was dominant. Do you see this D line getting more sacks as it keeps going? Because right now I feel like they're getting picks because teams are just trying to get the ball out. But at some point, are they going to start getting coverage sacks?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah,
This secondary is the best secondary the Niners have seen maybe in the 2000s. Like the whole 2000s, the whole 20 years of it, the secondary is really good. And
yeah,
it's almost surprising that they prioritize as much as they did going out and getting Mooney Ward, drafting Samuel Womack and using him as a starter week one, things like that. And then you have Talanoa Hufanga, who through 2 games, all of a sudden looks like a pretty decent coverage safety, which was my biggest concern last season. And now he's looking really good. And he can only get better with Jimmy Ward coming back in the future. With the defensive line, as long as Nick Bosa exists, this defensive line is just going to get better and better every week. I mean, the fact that the second pass rusher on the team is Samson Ebukam, and he's shown that he has the ability to be a rusher one on a lot of teams. And it's to a point where the Niners' third rusher is their second round draft pick last season, a guy that they probably want to play quite a bit. And then after that, it just gets deeper and deeper. You have guys like Kerry Hyder, you have Hassan Ridgeway. And I know Ridgeway's more of a run stopper, but Charles Omenihu, who's really good on Sunday. Niners had 3 pass rushers get 3 pressures on Sunday. Omenihu, Hyder, and Bosa. Those were the 3. And I haven't even said Eric Armstead. Like Eric Armstead hasn't even been said yet. Yeah, this pass rush is insane. It's only going to get better and better and better every week. And not to get too early into it, but Nick Bosa is currently on pace through 2 weeks to break Michael Strahan's sack record. So there's something to watch in case you wanted me to overreact through 2 weeks on the season. There it is. There's the big overreaction.
How do you feel Kinlaw's looked?
Oh, I love Javon Kinlaw, and he's been so good. And the fact he's been healthy, I think the biggest thing that's happened for him this season is he had that ankle injury against the Bears, and he came back in, and that was amazing to see because he had the ACL injury last year. You know, there's rumors the arthritis in the knee, whatever it is. And you see him leave the game week 1. It's like, gosh, here we go again. We're doing the Kinlaw injury thing. And he's back out there, not only back out there, but he's performing better and better with each snap. He's going to be really good. And it's really unfair to him that what happened in 2020 leading up to him becoming a 49er with the DeForest Buckner trade. Because I think if you just isolate what Javon Kinlaw is, he's really good. And I think he needs to be talked about a little bit more. But you put him in the comparison of what DeForest Buckner was, it's a little tougher to do because, you know, we knew how good he was.
Yeah.
But Kinlaw, I mean, he's just a big man, and those holes go away. And what's crazy is he's such a good pass rusher. If he could develop a little bit more in that run stopping, He's going to be
Well,
so
he
good.
was
I'm so
supposed
excited
to
to see
be
what
the
he is.
run stopping.
Which is
That was what
interesting,
he was.
right? We haven't quite seen that yet, but we've seen him be a really good pass. But that makes sense with how deep the Niners pass rushing is. Guys like Bosa, guys like Omenihu, guys like Ebukam, they're getting these double teams, so it opens up opportunity. I think Kinlaw had a pressure on the first snap of the season.
Yep.
Let's. I'm excited to see him get better in the run game, and he's already pretty decent at that as it is, to be honest.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit for Javon Kinlaw in the center.
Yeah, and I kept this one up by Chris because this was my next question: is how good is this secondary gonna look when Jimmy Ward comes back? And then you've got Jason Verrett still on the way, who I think a lot of us right now have forgotten that he's still on deck. So I mean, I don't think many of us thought that this defense could really look much better than it did last week. But with those two waiting in the wings, how much better can these guys get?
Oh, Jimmy Ward coming back is going to be huge. Because what that's going to do is he has such a good ability as a center fielder type safety that Hufanga can play more snaps near the line where he's most effective. And I know I just praised his coverage ability so far through these first 2 weeks, but I think you'd prefer to see a little bit more Hufanga closer to the ball because I think that's where he has the biggest game changing ability. For Jason Verrett, I don't know what to expect when he comes back because he's not going to be a starter. He's not going to start over Mooney Ward. He's not going to start over Emmanuel Mosley.
Yeah.
And I know we say this every year, like what a healthy Jason Verrett can look like. But oh my God, could you imagine a healthy Jason Verrett as the Niners' fourth cornerback behind Mooney, behind Mosley, and behind Womack? I know Womack's going to sit in the slot more often than not.
Yeah.
But it also offers versatility, those 4 receiver sets. If Mosley, talk about him in the slot, 4 receiver set, 2 on each side. You put Mosley in a slot to cover the second slot receiver. You have Verrett on the outside, things like that. I just realized I say things like that a lot. I don't know why. I mean, I'm going to stop doing that. I say it a lot.
Yeah.
But I know we cannot trust Verrett to be 100% healthy.
No.
It's unfortunate we can't. But man, when he was healthy, he was so good in 2020. And if that's your fourth corner, you're feeling really, really good. Yeah. The Niners defense can only get better with Jimmy Ward coming back, and you like to think it can only get better with Jason Verrett, especially if he can stay healthy. And we're going to be in another season where this defense is going to carry this team. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to ride it and have fun and be decent enough to get this team to the playoffs. And the Niners are going to get another third-round pick because D'Amico Ryans is going to go be the head coach for whatever team hires him. Well, I was going to throw a team, the Cardinals. I'll throw the Cardinals, putting Kingsbury on the hot seat. But no, the Niners defense is easily the best part of this team. The offense gets all the attention. I mean, what is it? Defense wins championships. Offense gets the fans or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's what this Niner team is.
But that's what we've been since 2019, and I don't expect it to change. And I'm just so I'm actually happy this year that's the way it is. I didn't think that this defense could get much better than the defense was down the stretch last year. Mm-hmm. And but I mean, this has got to be the deepest secondary that I've ever seen on this team.
That's the dangerous thing when you add a guy like Mooney Ward to a defense, right?
Yeah.
Is now it's not because the Niners cornerback situation last year was Verrett and Mosley, and just pray Verrett stays healthy, and that bit them in the ass in week 1. Where this year it's like, yeah, you have Mooney Ward, you have Emmanuel Mosley. Ambry Thomas is a backup where he probably should be a rotational guy. Diamador Lenore, same thing. And all this team needed was a cornerback, apparently, because this defense is way better than what it was. It's crazy what happens when you replace Ambry Thomas with Mooney Ward, right? And that's nothing against Ambry Thomas. I think a lot of people are in agreement that Mooney Ward is better than him. Yeah. But it's crazy what happens. The Niners finally spent money on this secondary, and it's weird how this defense is already humming. And it's defense wins championships, offense sells tickets.
Always.
That's the quote.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I got it right.
That's just for all the people out there all the youngsters that might not know that reference. But
Bear Bryant.
The youngsters definitely don't know that reference.
I definitely lost the youngsters on Bear Bryant there.
But so we got
ask your dad
real fast before we get out of here. The next opponent is Denver. Is Russ still the boogeyman? And what part of their offense could the 49ers struggle against?
I don't know if Russ is the boogeyman. He hasn't really looked the part the past couple weeks,
But he didn't
especially.
last year. Remember,
But
he
here,
played
yeah, but
Oregon
here's the,
and then until he played us.
yeah, that's the scary thought is like now it's like, oh yeah, of course Russ figures it out against the Niners.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's what I'm really excited about is like I'm gonna pick the Niners to win this game on the podcast, on the Sprint Right Option podcast. But if they lose, I'm gonna just Monday, I'm just gonna be like, it was Russell Wilson. Did you really think the Niners were gonna beat him? Like, come on, he's done this for a decade. I'm
Yeah,
not as
for
much
sure.
scared as him as I used to be, but we'll find out. We'll see
Yeah.
because it's more of a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like, yeah, he can't hurt me anymore. He's in a different conference. We're not worried about him anymore. But
Just like the Seahawks game last week.
yeah. Oh man, that blocked field goal, man.
Yeah.
The second that blocked field goal,
I was like, oh, here we go.
It was instant. Like, oh, there's a special teams play that gets the Seahawks back in it, and they're gonna win. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then it never came. So I guess that's great. So I hope the Niners have the Russell. But what nice thing is the Niners might not even have to figure out Russell Wilson because Nathaniel Hackett seems to have no idea what he's doing with
No
him.
idea.
So hey, who knows? Maybe what that is. In terms of overall in this game, I like to think the Niners can win this game. Denver has a lot of weapons, and I haven't seen any updates on Surtain or Judy. I'm assuming Judy's playing. I heard he practiced, I think. I don't know what Surtain's looking like. This is going to be a really big test for this offensive line. We talk about how good they looked last week. As against the Seattle pass rush, it's not
Bradley
great,
Chubb
but now it's Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory.
Yeah.
Players like that, and it's a good pass rush, but we'll see what the Niners are. Jimmy Garoppolo's here. That automatically means W's, right? That's what I've been told the past 4 years. So Jimmy Garoppolo's here. It's easy as that. Niners win no matter what. It's going to be a fun, competitive game. I think the idea of Russ being there makes us a little scarier. I'm still not convinced Denver. I think Denver's still the fourth best team in the AFC West. I think the Raiders might be a little better than them. But Russell Wilson's still there, so we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a close one. I could see it being some dumb score like 23-14 or something like that. The Niners get a few field goals, something dumb like that. But I think it'll be a competitive, fun game for Sunday night.
Yeah, and my prediction for the score was it was going to be 2010. Like just something I think that like this defense is going to. I think that they're going to do work in this game. I'm trying to speak into existence right now that they are getting rid of the boogeyman, that he is no longer going to hold them hostage, and it's going. And I think that the defense itself will dominate. I'm hoping that I'm also going to speak into existence that Jordan Mason gets 15 carries in this game and ends up rushing for like over 100 yards.
I'll take one carry at this point. I'll take one Jordan Mason carry.
But I'm gonna speak it into existence. So like, if Shanny's burners listening right now, like make it happen. Just make it happen.
Yes, absolutely.
One for the
let's get Jordan Mason carries. Let's just Jordan Mason. Honestly, just take the offense you had for Trey Lance and just replace Trey Lance with Jordan Mason.
Exactly.
That'll be enough carries. There you go.
There you go. Except let's leave his ankle on his body.
Yes, let's keep that intact. We need to turn off injuries at some point.
It's got to happen. Like, but hey, Andrew, I really appreciate having you on. I had a great time talking Niner football with you. I hope you had a great time on the show. Like, thanks to Chris for in the comments, like for talking, for giving us some good talking points. But one more time, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you? Not that they don't already know about the Sprint Right Option podcast, but let them know anyway.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Pasquini Andrew, Pasquini Andrew. That's my last name, first name. Sprint Right Option podcast. We stream live on Jason Aponte's YouTube channel every Monday, every Friday. If you can't catch the live streams, you can catch us on wherever you get your podcast, Sprint Right Option podcast. You can also catch my articles. I'm writing this season now at NinersNation.com, part of the SB Nation family of websites. So if you want to, if you can't get enough of my voice, you want to hear what I type or read what I type, you can find that there. But yeah, this was fun. Anytime you want me, I'm always down to talk 49. I just sit in this chair, and whether it's playing video games, working my 9 to 5, talking 49, I'm just sitting in this chair regardless. So yeah, anytime you want me on, I'll gladly be on.
Awesome. Hey, good to but yeah, I can't thank you enough for spending your time with us. And yeah, like everybody out there, go find this man on Twitter. He does have funny tweets no matter what he tries to tell
I
you.
try my best.
And and but hey, for everybody out there, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will remember you can find me on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. I am on and I'm on Instagram. I am starting to cut up some of the show and putting it on in like cutting it up in smaller versions so you guys can stomach all of it. Like and then also
So
the
we got to
audio
start doing
version.
it the sprint right, so we could like get people to. Yeah, we don't do that. We need to start. That's smart. I like that.
And then also you can get the audio version if you don't have time to watch and you just don't want to see my face. Like you can listen to the audio version on all any place where you can get your podcast, just like Andrew was talking about. But uh once again, thank everybody for watching, everybody for listening, and always go Niners.